You think you know who you're attracted to, right? That it's your choice, your feeling, your preference. But what if it isn't? What if there are these powerful, invisible social forces kind of guiding your desires? Well, today we're going to decode that hidden rule book of attraction. So, if you have spent any time on TikTok lately, you've definitely seen it. That whole hashtag old money trend, right? All those images of quiet luxury and inherited status. But here's the thing, this is way more than just a fashion trend. It's actually a window into our deepest ideas about class, wealth, and what makes a partner desirable. Okay, so first things first. Let's tackle a classic stereotype that seems to explain all of this, the trophy wife. The idea is simple, right? A beautiful woman marries an older, wealthy man. It's a trade. But is that what's really happening? Yeah, this stereotype makes for a great story, but the actual research, it tells a completely different one. See, sociologists have found we don't really trade assets like beauty for money. Instead, we practice something called assortative mating. Now, I know it's a fancy term, but the idea is super simple. Like attracts like. We tend to partner up with people who are on our same level, both in attractiveness and in social status. And researcher Elizabeth McClintock argues that the whole trophy wife thing is basically a myth we keep alive because we focus on the few examples that seem to fit, while we completely ignore the countless examples that don't. And this stereotype isn't just wrong, it's actually pretty damaging. Okay, so if our attraction isn't just some simple marketplace exchange, then what is it? What's the deeper mechanism that's drawing us to certain people? To really understand attraction, we've got to look beyond just economics and dive into sociology. We need to uncover this kind of social blueprint that's shaping all our preferences from behind the scenes. A really key concept here is habitus, from the sociologist Pierre Bourdieu. The easiest way to think of it is as your social programming. It's all the tastes and habits you just sort of absorb from your life experiences, what you find funny, the food you like, even the way you talk. It's this unconscious lens that makes you decide what feels right or natural. So here's how it works. Your social environment programs your preferences. Those preferences then define your tastes, and ultimately, that taste guides you to a partner. You know that click or that instant chemistry you feel with someone? Bourdieu would say you're just recognizing a similar habitus. It's how we find our tribe, but it's also how social circles can become these echo chambers, reinforcing class divides without us even realizing it. And this brings us right back to that TikTok trend. The whole fascination with old money isn't just about wealth. It's a fascination with a very specific kind of habitus, one that signals class through taste. Now, to understand these signals, we need one more key concept: conspicuous consumption. It was coined by a sociologist, Thorsten Veblen, and it describes how people use spending not just to get things, but to display where they stand in society. And this is where that whole online battle between old money and new money gets really interesting. The hashtag old money aesthetic values inherited wealth way more than earned wealth. The style is understated, not flashy. It's about being part of an exclusive in-group that's defined by your heritage, not just your bank account. It's a code that says true status can't be bought. It has to be inherited. That's the fantasy being sold. But what's the reality of actually living inside that fantasy? The online trend glorifies this world as the ultimate fantasy. But psychologically, what does it actually mean to be born into a fortune? We're taught to believe that more money, especially money you don't have to work for, is the key to happiness. But does the research actually agree with that? Turns out, inheriting a ton of wealth can bring some pretty unique psychological burdens. First, there's the adaptation treadmill. You get used to your circumstances so fast that you lose the joy of achievement. Then there's the comparison trap. Your reference point is your even richer parents or friends. And finally, there's this constant pressure to justify wealth you didn't actually earn, which is a really heavy weight to carry. This quote from Eric Schoenberg really just sums it up perfectly. Creature comforts are temporary. But the respect that comes from earning something yourself, that's a much deeper, more lasting satisfaction. It's not really about the money, it's about the meaning. So let's bring it all together, from busting these big myths to understanding the psychology of wealth. The big takeaway here is this: our most personal choices, they're not really that personal. Whether it's the person we fall in love with or the aesthetic we're chasing online, we're constantly responding to a social blueprint, our habitus, that was written for us long before we ever made our first choice. And that leaves us with a final, pretty provocative question. You believe your taste is uniquely yours. But are your choices truly free? Or are you just following a code that society wrote for you?